Hello and welcome back to Gardening with Gibson. Today I want to show you my favorite type of tomato trellis. This particular tomato trellis I actually got from another YouTuber. Their name is Epic. It's the Epic Gardening channel. They are based out of San Diego, California. But this particular tomato trellis is actually called the Florida Weave. So I will go ahead and take you over to my main garden area and show you what that looks like. So here is a Florida Weave trellis that I have already set up. This is set up last year. I just left it in here all winter and it was fine. This twine that I'm using is just some like plastic, I think it's like butte or something like that. It's just from Home Depot, nothing special about it. I just thought that it would be more durable and less likely to get moldy because it gets pretty humid here in southwestern Ontario. But essentially the Florida Weave method, you just have a post or stake at either end of your tomato row and you weave the string in between them. In this particular case I've done it about every 6 to 7 inches. It goes up about 3/4 of the way, but it's very early in the season here. Today is June 12th, 2022. As we get further in the season, I will put more on there, as these tomato plants are all indeterminate in this bed, and they can sometimes get up to 11 feet in height. So there have been several years in the past where I have had these tomatoes well over the top of that piece of wood up there. This particular bed, that's actually 8 feet tall from the bottom all the way to the top. So now that you have seen an example of what the Florida Weave method looks like, I am going to set up another one for these other 2 tomato plants over here. Just a quick rundown of what is in here. These 2 tomato plants that are on this Florida Weave setup already, they are San Marzano tomatoes. This one right here is an heirloom variety tomato called Prudence Purple. I've never grown this one before, but I'm very interested to see how these tomatoes taste. And this one over here is one that everyone loves, the cherry tomato. It's right beside this little a sage bush here. I might end up moving that at some point, but this kind of just came back after last year. I actually didn't know that the sage would come back because I'd never grown it before, but it did. And at the moment it's not causing any harm, but at some point it might stunt the growth of that cherry tomato plant. So I'll probably come back and take a look at it in a month or so and see how we're doing with that. So now that I have shown you the tomato plants that are in this bed, I am going to talk about everything else that is around it. So here, I mean, everyone probably recognizes these are marigolds. These are plants that can help prevent the horned tomato worm, which I personally have never had a problem with, but I also like to have them in here for pollinators, and they look nice as well. And this right here is a basil plant. This is one that I germinated myself this spring. It's the Genovese basil variety. There was another one over there which got ripped out by squirrels, and then I actually replaced it with another marigold, but that also got ripped out, so that is gone now. I'm actually okay with that, with nothing being in between those 2 tomato plants, simply because that particular spot is very difficult to reach. So yeah, how about I set this camera up on the tripod now, and I will set up this Florida Weave setup on these other 2 tomato plants. So the first thing that I'm going to do here, since I have already stuck these poles into the ground here, or into the garden bed rather, I am going to grab a couple of electrical conduit brackets. The screws that I'm going to be using to attach this are just simple 1.5 inch deck screws. Now that the posts have been secured to the side of the garden bed, I am going to go get the twine, and I'm going to show you how I tie it around each side so that it stays firm and that it won't come undone. So the first thing that we are going to do here is we're going to take a big chunk of this like this. So now that we're 1, 2, 3 up, we can wrap this around here, and I'm actually wrapping over the twine so that it can't release itself. This will create a nice strong grip on it so that it won't come undone. And then I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to tie it 2 or 3 times in a knot. That might have been 4 or 5 times, but that's okay. So now I am going to take my bundle right here, or my roll, and I am just simply going to toss it over to the other side. Okay, so now that we are on the other side over here, I'm basically again going to do the same thing, except I'm going to try to shove this one down a little bit more because it wasn't quite down all the way. So 1, 2, 3. Oh. First I'm going to get this off of there so that it's not hung up. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to come here. And don't worry about this loop. I'm going to cut that off after. It will be fine. So I am just knotting it a few times now so that it won't come undone. This plastic twine does tend to be a little bit slippery, and unless you're super aggressive with it, it doesn't actually like to stay tied. So that's why I loop it so many times. So yeah, now that that's all cut off, I can just undo that, and that is on there now. It's a little bit loose, but it's not too bad. Once the tomato plant starts to put pressure on it, it will tighten up a little bit more anyways. So now I am just going to go ahead and cut that little bit of excess off, and then I am going to do 2 more of these, and I will show you guys when I'm done. Alright, so I have those 2 more rows done now. I actually decided to go 1 more up from on the second one, simply because the way that I do my tomato plants down here, I actually cut all the leaves off, sometimes a foot, sometimes up to 18 inches high. The reason for this is to prevent soil splash up, and just from being it too low to the ground. Because of how humid it is here in southwestern Ontario, the tomato plants are very prone to getting blight and other fungal diseases, so I try to prevent that as much as possible. In an upcoming video, I will tell you guys about all of the methods that I do to attempt to prevent blight. Sometimes you still get it, but that's just life and you can't always prevent that type of thing. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and share. Please stay tuned, as in a future video I am going to be taking you on a tour of everything that I have in my garden and everything that I like to grow on a yearly basis. Alright, thank you very much. See you next time.